My name is Valaskakis. I run a boutique media and consulting company called Portfolio IV. I used to work at a local Montreal mobile content company called Airborne Mobile, previously Airborne Entertainment, for about 4 years. And previous to that, I worked for a global mobile content company, mobile phone company called Vodafone, which you may or may not have heard of. Okay, well, I think the first step is really to get intelligence or information on the markets you want to enter in. I mean, obviously, Quebec is a place where there's a tremendous amount of technology and expertise. And I think that in many instances, Quebec companies punch above their weight in that they do better abroad than a company of their normal size would do. The challenge is that in a lot of these markets, whether it's North America or Europe, those are already mature markets that have barriers to entry. And those barriers to entry could potentially be with contractual issues, where you have a very onerous legal process to establish contracts with carriers and people like that in order to sell your products. And in other instances, it's just a tremendous amount of competition. Everybody wants to get in this space. You know, the United States is a market of 300 million people. In Europe, the combined European Union is about 350 million people. So everybody wants to be in this marketplace, and therefore there are a lot of people competing for those limited amount of kind of shelf space, if you will, in these areas. So I think it's great that companies in Quebec want to compete in those marketplaces. It's just that they have to be prepared. They have to understand that there are significant challenges and prepare to overcome those challenges over time. I think that one needs to have a long view when they're investing in international markets. So by that I mean that they can't expect a return on investment in the first 6 to 12 months, that they really are looking to very methodically expand their business abroad, and that they'll have to take 2 steps backwards before they take the 3 steps forwards that they want for their business. Particularly in a place like Europe, where the marketplace for what I trade in, which is mobile content, is actually somewhat advanced from North America. And then you look at other markets like Asia, which is even further ahead than Europe, and you realize that there are areas that you have to kind of pick and choose and decide strategically what's best for your company and what's best for your products and where you actually can be competitive in. It's not a universal law to say that Europe and Asia are ahead of North America on every aspect of mobile content, for example. So for instance, one of the big developments in the last 12 months, really 18 months, has been the introduction of the Apple iPhone, which was introduced first in North America and has had its greatest success thus far in North America. So in the small category of Apple iPhone and Apple iPhone applications, which is one of the fastest growing areas in mobile, North America is actually ahead of Europe and Asia. In other instances where you're talking about the penetration of mobile phones, that is the percentage of people who have mobile phones and who use them regularly and who use them for things other than just speaking, which is what most people still do. North America is lagging behind Europe and Asia. And so therefore, there are instances where clearly they're ahead of the curve, so to speak, then in North America. I would say that the most important thing, if you're a Quebec company or a Canadian company, is to exhaust every opportunity in your domestic market, and then radiate outwards in concentric circles. So I think, you know, once Canada, which is unfortunately a small market by almost any standard, once you've made your successes in Canada, to the next most logical place is obviously North America, the greater extent of North America. And when I say North America, I really mean the United States, obviously, but also Mexico. Mexico is part of North America in geographic terms, but also in terms of business opportunities. It's a little bit more complex than dealing with the United States. There's obviously a language issue, but there's also a language issue in Canada. But I think that the combined marketplace of North America, Canada, the US, and Mexico is actually quite attractive. And once one has been able to kind of really take full possible advantage of that geographic market, then one should look abroad. And coincidentally, you know, the United States market and the North American market is very attractive. European companies constantly want to penetrate the United States market, even though they have a market that's comparably larger. And so we should not diminish the fact that we live on a continent that is incredibly attractive from an economic standpoint. And when you know, we are looking to expand our businesses, we should look first really to North America. One of the areas that continues to amaze people in terms of its longevity and its robustness is messaging. So SMS, texting, continues to be a cash cow for the mobile industry. Now, it's less interesting from the standpoint of mobile content because it's harder to program content for that, but you are creating an environment where people are sending text messages to each other, obviously, but increasingly people are signing up for text message alerts about their stock quotes, about the Canadian scores, about political developments like Parliament being closed or something. And so there is an emerging business in content for texting, and messaging in general is a tremendously strong and I think still growing element of the mobile content pie. Increasingly, it's not just texting, but it's also mobile messaging in the sense of mobile instant messenger. Some of those viewers of yours who may have a BlackBerry understand that you have BlackBerry Messenger, and MSN has a messenger program, and that's one of the fastest growing areas in the world, really, but particularly in North America. And in fact, in North America, Americans, even though they came late to the party, so to speak, in texting, now text twice as much as Europeans do on a monthly basis. You'd be surprised to know, though, that the country that texts the most in the world are the Philippines. The Philippines, on average, send 735 messages per month. Astounding figure. Now, they hardly talk at all on the phone because of the phone rates, and it's much cheaper to buy text messages. But that's a unique culture where they spend an extraordinarily big percentage of their money on messaging. So you were asking about what are the things that still work. So messaging still works. Games continues to be part of the portfolio of products that's being offered, but it hasn't been growing of late. The area that I alluded to earlier, which is growing, is iPhone applications. I'm sure everybody's heard about the iPhone and the significance that it's had on the marketplace. They've sold 13 million iPhones already to date in a little over a year in the market. It's rapidly become the most coveted phone, the way the Motorola Razr used to be a few years ago. In fact, it's now #2 in North America in terms of its sales, behind only the BlackBerry Curve. Apple iPhone applications are a tremendous growth area, and there are both success stories on a company basis, so things like Facebook and other big companies have had a lot of success launching applications, but even small developers, and this will be of interest to people who may be watching this program. Even small developers are having some success. There was a report I just read today about a developer, a 29-year-old person who develops in his spare time, is employed by a bank during the day and writes code during at night. And he was able to quit his job after 2 months because he was able to make $250,000 for his little application that he was selling on the application store. So he was selling it for $5, sold obviously enough copies with the revenue share with Apple to make $250,000 in 2 months. And so I don't want to encourage anybody to quit their day jobs, but there are opportunities to be had, and there's still some exciting growth opportunities in mobile today. I was just reminded the other day of a quote that's attributed to Wayne Gretzky, a person dear to my heart as a hockey player and as a Canadian. And Wayne Gretzky was famous because he used to say, you have to go to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is. And essentially, the iPhone application space is where the mobile content space is going. Now, this presents both opportunities and threats. The opportunities is that the business model is in place, that it's a very easy, very low barrier to entry environment. You basically have to just develop the application. You provide it to Apple. Apple vets it and says yes or no. Usually they say yes, and then they start selling it. When they sell it, they keep 30% of the revenue, and they give back 70% of the revenue. Simple as pie, right? And if you create a good application, it'll start to sell units. The problem is that a lot of people have the same idea. And so already there are 10,000 applications available on the application store. So there's a lot of competition. That doesn't mean that you should be dissuaded from doing so, but it just means that you have to be realistic that there's going to be a lot of competition, a lot of challenging environments to try to get people to look and notice and be aware of your application. But hopefully, if the application is good, it'll rise to the top. So I think, yes, the opportunity is there, but you have to be open-minded and you have to be clear-sighted about the challenges in place. But as I noted earlier, there are opportunities for tremendous upside if a small developer can make $250,000 in 60 days. The exciting thing, particularly for smaller and medium-sized producers, is that the content that's working on the mobile phone is not the content that works on television. And by that I mean that people are looking for edgier, funnier, more offbeat content, things that you wouldn't find at 10 o'clock on CTV or CBC or NBC. What they're looking for is more in the vein of what you find on YouTube, which is amateur video, user-generated video, or video that is professionally made but doesn't have the same kind of corporate sensibilities that big media content is. So if you're a small producer and you are looking to syndicate your content, and it's more along the lines of comedy or entertainment or a little bit more risque within the bounds of reason, that kind of content tends to work really well in mobile. And therefore I think you don't have to be a huge media player like Fox or a News Corporation or Time Warner to have success in the mobile space, but you do have to realize that it's more than just taking web content and slapping it onto a mobile phone.